Welcome back to the Four Wheel Drive podcast driven by Shelter. That's music by Southern River Band, Let It Ride, of course. The socials, you'll find us at the Four Wheel Drive podcast on Instagram and YouTube over at BackChat Studios. Joined by Ronny Dahl, my ever-relying co-host.
Liam, how are you?
I'm good, mate. And we're joined by Matt from Overland Travellers as well, mate. So thanks for joining us.
No worries, mate. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Matt.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Exciting show.
Yes, it's good to be at the Four Wheel Drive show again and just chat Four Wheel Drives and see all the new stuff that's out. It's always good fun.
There's a lot of noise around too, boys, so apologies to everyone listening. Back to this, there's going to be a little bit of disturbance around. But
yeah, we're at the Eastern Creek Dragway and there's a few races happening in the background as
there's
well.
a lot going on. There'll be people floating through and there might be people jumping in Troopy, so I have to kick them out when they do, Ronny. But boys, got you both here. We're going to talk the Simpson Desert, so it's perfect, Matt, that you're joining us. And
very close to my heart.
Yeah, you've told us before that you've done a few trips to that, and you said before that you've studied some facts as well recently, just so you're prepared to. So I wouldn't mind just giving you a little bit of a test on those facts because Jaden's left some for me here. So
all right, no worries, mate. Let's test me, but yeah, I'll see how I go.
All right. Well, do you know how many square kilometres the Simpson Desert is?
Oh, mate, it'd be more than 3, I'd say. less than 10 million.
You are dead on. Do you know what it is, Ronny?
I'm honestly taking a stab here, about 300,000, I don't know.
170,000 square kilometres.
Okay. Oh, not bad,
as
Ronny.
As big as Washington, DC for the US listeners, so it's...
When I said 3, I meant 300,000.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, you were a little bit off.
What do you think? I'm talking, 3 square kilometres?
I thought you were just giving me such a big range that you just could not be wrong. How many sand dunes?
Is there 1,100?
Yep.
It's kind of debatable, isn't it? Like, used to be 1,150, and I tried carrying them, but how far did you get when you counted them? I got to like 180, and then I gave up.
Mate, they blend into one after a while. You sort of just get into the groove in the Simpson. That's it's the flow state of the Simpson, I call it. You're sort of just cruising over one dune after the other. I love it.
Yeah, it is awesome. Isn't it like the longest parallel dunes in the world? Like most longest parallel dunes in the world?
That's spot on. Some of them are 200 kilometres long, so
that's crazy.
That's wild.
Pretty full on.
Yeah.
But
you've had a drone in the air before there?
Oh yeah, got the drone up.
It just looks epic, doesn't it?
It almost looks like water, at the beach and the waves. When you see those little ripples right at the edge of the water, it's like that, but just on a huge scale, and it's so impressive. And when the sun is setting,
oh my god,
and those shadows are getting long on each dune, it is something else. It is spectacular.
For everyone out there, where is it? How are we getting there to even start? Because it's actually quite a trek to get to the Simpson Desert to start it off. So
yeah, absolutely.
Where is it?
Well, Matt, you cover the east, and then I'll talk about the west.
Yeah, so it actually covers a couple of states: South Australia, Northern Territory, and Queensland. So there's national park in South Australia, not in the Northern Territory, and not a national park in Queensland. So you can really start. I'd say one of the biggest starting points for the Simpson Desert is Mount Dare. Going into Dalhousie Springs, Alice Springs, or Birdsville.
Yep, righto.
Yeah, that's right. You can start from Alice because that's on the old and Dado Road, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Old and Dado, well, the Bins track goes from Alice and goes down into Old and Dado, and from there you've got a couple of options of what line you want to do in the Simpson.
Yeah.
So what are some of those lines that?
Well,
the
line I've only done one line. I've done it twice. So I did the Madigan line when you used to be able to go east to west. You can't do it anymore. And that was the most fun and challenging way. Because I want people, because the dunes are a bit higher and a bit more challenging, so they don't want people going both ways.
Yep.
Just in case you have a collision.
Yep.
And then I recently did the other way, but you've done some of the other ones.
Yeah, we've done a bit of the QAA French line, Rig Road, and the Madigan as well. So we've done quite a few.
Yep.
Yeah. So the QAA that's because we didn't do the Madigan all the way to Birdsville. We come down and did the QAA. That's where Torben got completely stuck.
Yep.
That time. But yeah, how would you compare the other tracks to the Madigan line? Because I've never actually done Rig Road and rest of the French line.
Look, the Simpson Desert is changing all the time, and from when we had first done the Madigan, 2021. Completely different to when we did it recently a couple of months ago. A lot more chopped up, so I'd say more people are doing it. the lines themselves, look, the Madigan, when you're going west to east, you are going on the not going on the leeward side of the dune. So if you're going east to west, the dunes are steeper because it's the leeward side. So it's actually the easier crossing going west to east on any line in the Simpson. One thing to keep in mind on the QAA towards the end, the dunes get quite big and you get really big moguls. So
what's
it's
that?
Quite chopped up. Moguls.
Moguls.
So I'll say a moguls are in a sand dune is opposing holes to your wheels.
Righto. Yep.
So not consistent humps.
Yep.
They're sort of you'll be getting crossed up. You'll be
righto.
flexing along
also
those
known
moguls.
as wombat holes. That's how I know them a bit more. Yeah. So, and that's due to people not having the right tyre pressure,
Yep, sound like a broken record, mate. But
like me.
Yeah, tyres.
You do lower your tyres, Liam.
Yeah, sometimes. Mate, you've done it in 2 different vehicles as well, which is probably the most interesting part about your travels through the Simpson for me anyway. Tell us about the difference between...
Funnily enough, it's the same vehicle, actually. It's just 42 years apart. So one was the HJ47, our old troopy Elsie, affectionately known.
Yep, famous.
And then we've done a couple of crossings in Elsie, and then we just did a crossing recently in our brand new 78 series troop carrier, which is a different experience. But it's great to compare the 2 different vehicles. And look, 42-year-old vehicle, no power steering, stock as a rock, 4-speed gearbox, drum brakes, and that thing was unbelievable in the Simpson. It was fantastic. And because you've got an older vehicle, you don't have the power. I was relying on actually driving it properly and letting my tyres down.
Yep.
With the newer one, you can kind of get a little bit lazy, I'll just put the diff locks in, But so it was a really good experience in the older vehicle. And honestly, in some situations, it did better than the 70 series.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
Yep.
So they built those vehicles really. So those vehicles were made as an off-road vehicle first and foremost. Like, absolutely, their main purpose is those kind of tracks. So slow going, revving low, the 6 cylinders, big firewheel, a lot of lug, revved fantastically. I found the revs, second gear would just idle over dunes.
Yeah. Okay.
Look, on any other road, on corrugations, on road, that thing's an absolute pig to drive. But in those flowing sort of sand dunes, it was fantastic. I actually found the 70 series would actually start bucking back and forth, so could be something to do with my suspension, but I actually found it just sort of bucked back and forth, and I almost had a sore back in the 70 series and the 40 series.
Really?
Yeah.
So interesting.
Really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting you should say that, because that's what I kind of got in the 79, but when I take the Troopy over dunes, it feels more comfortable.
Yeah, I'd say the shorter wheelbase and maybe a little less weight over the back, or I'm not too sure. But it's just different setups, and so
it makes a huge difference. Like having a rear tank filled or empty,
huge.
It just changes the whole dynamics of the vehicle.
Absolutely.
So with both your vehicles, Matt, what did you do yours in, Ronny, when you crossed?
So I did it in a 79 both times towing as well.
Okay, yep.
So I towed west to east and I towed east to west.
Yep, righto.
And that was interesting. I got bogged a couple of times west to east, and I found that I just took a bit more air out of my tyres and there was no problem after that.
Right,
But we know someone who recently crossed, Nina, who comments a lot.
Yep.
So she blew her front diff. She's just done it, so she had to complete it in 2-wheel drive, and she had her tyres down. And she was having a bit of a giggle about people not being able to conquer dunes, and she'd just putt up in 2-wheel drive.
Right.
Well, I'd watch people get hung up on lots of dunes in 200s, 100s, 105s. And I was in the 40 series just chugging over, and it was almost funny. Brand new Rangers, they've got stacks more power than I've got in the old 40, and And I was 16, 15 PSI, and she was just crawling up, no worries. So it's the number one thing, and you won't get caught up. It's not particularly hard forward driving. It's just you've just got to do it right.
Be smart. Yeah. That's probably a good prelude, because what I want to get to is how prepared you have to be. Obviously, the remoteness of the trip is one thing, but then, like you say, there's your vehicle, the tyre pressures, what you've got in the back. So breaking it up into 2 parts, maybe how prepared do you have to be for the remoteness, and then how prepared do you have to be, I suppose, with your vehicle and its specifications, and I suppose you're probably you're going to challenge a stock vehicle out there still, even though it's maybe not the toughest four-wheel driving. But where does that all sit for both of you?
It's a really good question for the Simpson, because it's done by so many, but I reckon, like, you've done the other lines, I haven't, but I'm assuming that the French line and that they would feel less remote than a Madigan. Would you say? Would you carry less kind of spares for that line, or would you do the same?
Look, gone are the days of old when not many people are doing it. It's busy, so you're probably always going to have people coming past if you're really going to get hung up. But obviously, you do want to be prepared. If you've been thinking about doing your bearings on your vehicle, if you've been thinking about an oil change, just do it before the trip, because it's not particularly hard forward driving. It's just that if something goes wrong, you either got a really big recovery bill, or you're going to have to figure it out yourself.
Yeah, long way away
That's
from
the
home.
issue. That's the thing.
Yep.
And to figure it out yourself, you got to have some experience with breakdowns.
Yep.
Like standard breakdowns, because out there's a whole different ball game. You know?
Yeah, well, we had a bearing go just on the recent trip, not in our car, but in our mate's 79. And he was, thinking about doing his bearings before the trip. He didn't. It was literally the end of a 30,000 kilometre trip around Australia. And he did his bearing, and he actually had all the tools to do it, had all the know-how. He just didn't have a bearing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, right.
No.
So it was a 1,000k round trip for Holly and I. We had to do the Madigan the opposite direction. So we're doing plenty of call-outs on the two-way, which is a big point I want to make, is make sure you have a UHF. That is absolutely paramount.
And a sand flag.
Get on channel 10 and a sand flag and do your call-outs. And we were just doing it over every June because people probably weren't expecting us coming when we were doing that Mercy Dash back to Alice.
So Channel 10's the Simpson call?
Yep, that's the Simpson.
Righto.
So, Channel 10, get on it.
Yep. So that did you have anything else there, mate?
Well,
on the preparedness?
There was on the preparedness. Well, I can relate to that wheel bearing thing, because I once did a wheel bearing. I had everything except for the seals, so we couldn't do the job. So I hadn't had to get one shipped. But that's a story for another place and another set of dunes, completely different. But with the radio and having the flag, we once encountered someone on the Madigan line that he didn't have a radio, he didn't have a flag.
Yep.
His mate was in front of him, and only because he told us that he was coming, he had no idea how far behind his mate was. So had he broken down, this guy's like kilometres in front of him. He wouldn't have known. We knew to keep an eye out for this guy, but otherwise he wouldn't have known. And then when he come up, he was like, he had no idea, no radio, no sand flag. Yeah.
Yep, play it safe out there for sure.
Yeah.
But,
you don't want to have a head-on on top of a dune. And it's worth noting on the QAA, closer to Birdsville, there are call points along every couple of Ks. You can say, okay, 3-car convoy heading east, call point 10.
Yeah, okay.
And that way you got vehicles either side knowing where you are.
Yep.
And I literally have people come up and I hadn't heard anything from them, and I literally knew they just went past the call point. And I said, "Oh, do you guys see the call point?" "Oh, nah, not really." And you think, yeah. But I didn't know they were coming, and if we met at the top of a sand dune, like that can just be game over.
Yeah.
So. And that's why you just got to be alert, be wary. Every time you climb a dune, gaze up ahead. See
scout ahead. Yep, that's good intel.
Lucky I don't make cars that are like sandy red, eh?
Yeah. Well, the sandy torp tube, obviously it was all good, so...
Yeah. I like to keep them guessing, mate.
Yeah.
So I put the racing stripes on it.
That's right. I don't know if you do mind touching on it, but any sort of hard luck stories, breakages of your own in the Simpson, where I know you touched on a little bit there.
I've got a good one.
Yeah.
And it was good because it was stupid. From me, so I had the old 40
we
series.
We learned from this on this show, though. These
mistakes. It was one of those things. I genuinely felt like an idiot, but pretty much I had the old 40 series, and I had a lot of spares in that thing. Like, I even had a whole hub. All your studs, bearings, fluids.
Were you so set up because you're in an older vehicle?
Just in an older vehicle, so you just want to make sure you just don't know what's going to go wrong in those old things. You can get out of a lot of situations in those old vehicles. They got same disc centers front and rear. You can swap your drive. You can do heaps of stuff.
Yep.
So you won't get hung up. But anyway, pretty much I'd bring oil every trip, and I'd never used it. I'm like, you know what? This thing's not using any oil. I'll be right. Anyway, one of my high pressure oil lines on the back of the vacuum pump. Anyway, it went, and I started pissing out a bit of oil, and I didn't have any in the Simpson. I checked my dipstick, and it was barely touching, and I just thought, oh gosh, and just that feeling like, you're running low on oil, and I actually had to ask someone for oil on the trip. It was oil for 200 series, but the old 2H, I don't think it really matters what you put in it. I was looking at my vegetable oil, and I'm thinking, I wonder what the 2H think about that. So anyway, we'll probably start burning it up and actually using it for fuel, but anyway.
Oh, man.
So that was dumb. So just the basics, basics.
Yeah.
Your fluids, belts, just your belts like that. You're going to get hung up if you don't have, one of them goes, in a newer car especially. A bit of wire, zip ties, duct tape. It sounds silly, but it can really get you out of trouble. Bit of super glue.
Yep.
Yeah, if you can't fix it with duct ties and cable, duct ties, duct tape and cable ties, you might as well leave it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Just the basics.
Thing, yeah.
I
love wire. Wire's so good. Fixes a lot of things.
Yeah, it does. My exhaust, one of my exhaust mounts snapped off in the 40 in the Simpson. Bit of wire, held it back up and it was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's well documented that last time we were out in the Simpson on the QAA line on the way back to Birdsville, that's where Torben got into a bit of mischief.
Yeah.
In the middle of
that was entertaining video.
Mate, I
loved it.
That was
We've spoken about that a lot on here.
Holly, my partner that we travel with, she's the other half of Overland Travellers, or probably more than half of it. She'd always show that video to people just because she thought it was kind of hilarious. But she's like, look what happened out there. Yeah, if you want to see what can go wrong, check it out.
That's crazy.
Mate, yeah, it's just crazy. Look, we've spoken about it a lot, but that situation, we didn't have the parts to fix it because we'd have to carry another CV, like another front axle. So we just pulled it out. But what we didn't realise was the inner shaft was going to slip out slowly and then restrict his steering. So we didn't think about that. So he had limited steering, which got him unstuck later.
Yeah.
So you live and you learn.
It is incredible.
Yeah, well, we were doing the repair in that hub once we had done the 1,000k dash back Dallas to get the bearing for my mate Adrian. We came back, but it was a little interesting point. His rear diff lock wasn't actuating. It had a bit of corrosion in there, so we realised that once we take the axle out, it could actually slide the diff lock. The little pin might slide down into the diff, and then that would be taking the diff apart then and taking the cover off, which would have been a real mission. So we couldn't actuate it. So he actually took the cover off the diff lock, and actually we jacked both tyres up and span them manually, and then he just put the pin in manually with his finger.
Oh, really?
His hand. So you can do that on a 70 series, we found out. Yeah. And we could actuate it manually, and then that way it didn't fall down into the diff when we took the axle out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that is a common problem. Like if you have a 70 series and you need to pull that axle out, if you don't lock that diff locker, that ring's going to drop.
And also, found out what the problem was with his diff lock.
Right.
It was just all corroded, so it's a bit of contact cleaner, and now it actuates again. And so, his car's better than ever. He just had to spend 2 days in the Simpson drinking beer while he waited for us to go get the part.
That sounds not too terrible, does it?
It's not the worst.
Yeah, just have enough shelters out there with spare parts.
What is the camping like out there?
Pretty exposed in most parts. There are some sort of smaller trees and banks of trees in between Gidgee trees, I believe they are.
Righto.
Don't quote me on that. But there's a lot of camps along the Madigan, actual camps that Cecil Madigan stayed at.
Oh, yeah.
But pretty open.
Yep.
It's the Simpsons quite interesting. Like, people think desert, then you get over a couple of dunes and there's trees everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's very different to what people will think. Yeah, and
wildflowers, covered in wildflowers. It was actually stunning, but it was quite lush out there. Actually,
beautiful sky at night, I'm assuming, and
definitely.
Well, it looked like an inland sea in between some of the dunes. We actually had to do a bypass recently around Air Creek, and it was actually stunning. You'll see the videos later, but
looking forward to that.
You've got sand dunes, and then in between you just have these billabongs and just the bird life and the grass that was growing. Right. We would have seen, bright green grass camped in between these dunes. It was a real juxtaposition. It was really different, and it was pretty special because it obviously doesn't happen much.
Yeah. You had to do that 100k detour around the...
Yep. Yeah, we had to do the
100
detour.
right?
Yes, and there was a small water crossing. It wasn't very deep, probably only 40 centimetres or so,
Right.
but it was deeper. New people, it was probably getting up to sort of, 80 centimetres a metre, so it was getting high.
Right.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
It's not what you think you'd be dealing with out there, that's for
That's
sure.
right.
Yeah.
No, not at
Water
all.
in the desert.
How long does it take, roughly?
Depends what line you do.
Yeah. How long's the French line, Matt?
French line, so we kind of zigzagged on the French line. So we did the bit of the rig road, a bit of the French, and a bit of the QAA. I think we did over 4 days. So Simpson's not too bad, You can sort
That's
of
right,
spend
yeah.
as long as you
Yeah.
want, but 3 to 6 days, I reckon, would be a good sort of
Yep.
point. But around 4, and on sort of the 5th day, you're probably rolling into Birdsville early for a bit of a pub feed.
Yeah,
How long
righto.
did you spend on the Madigan line?
I believe it was 4 days, yeah.
Okay, that's pretty quick. That's how quick we did it the first time. The second time it took us 6 days, but then we also lost.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
obvious
and you had a
reasons.
bit of bad weather and stuff as well, or a bit of rain come over.
Yeah, actually, yeah. That was the other thing. Hay River track was Hay River.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
See where it gets its name from.
Insane. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's so unpredictable with the weather.
Yep.
Like we checked it, we did everything that
Did the due
we needed
diligence,
to do. Yeah. Despite what people, all the internet experts will say afterwards, but we were forecast a bit of drizzle.
Yep.
And it just rained and rained and
Yeah,
rained and rained.
And that's all part of being prepared for the Simpson, though.
Yeah.
Is you kind of got to take those things in your stride, and something goes wrong, or if you get a bit of bad weather, just be prepared for it and just be
One
happy
thing,
to
one
do
thing
it.
we weren't prepared for here was the rain.
No, yeah.
At the show, it's been pissing down all morning, but
I forgot to move the camera before. I was like
yeah,
looking
I got
and
a
we
bit worried about it
started,
too
and I was
there.
like, oh,
that's
we're
why
doing-
there's no crowd, obviously, because they all left when the rain came. Would you do it solo?
Yeah, I would be happy to do the Simpson solo.
Yep.
But, I mean, have your EPIRB at the very least. I mean, we have Starlink now, so that's a great option for us.
Oh,
We left
yeah.
Starlink with Adrian, and he was able to do click and collect on all the parts, so we were able to get going. And by
Right.
the time we got to Alice, we just rolled into
They were
Repco,
there.
grabbed everything we needed, and then got back out of there.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, definitely have your EPIRBs.
You've done a recent something on Starlink, haven't you?
Yeah. How funny is that? Like middle of Simpson Desert.
Yeah.
Oh, you went and did click and collect. Like
Click and collect in
Yeah,
the Simo.
yeah.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. I mean, as I
That
said,
is
gone are the
crazy.
days where, those really remote tracks, you're not seeing, you're barely seeing anyone out there.
Yeah.
You will pass probably a car nearly every day in the Simpson, I would say,
Okay.
easily. And then when you get closer to Birdsville, it's pretty busy. You'll be passing 30 cars probably in one day in a couple of hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
easy.
because I've only done the Madigan line, so yeah, we didn't pass too many people on the Madigan line. I think a lot less people obviously do that one, but
It's just close to Birdsville because,
Yeah.
you get the caravanners, they aren't hitched, and they might go out to Popple's
Yeah.
Corner for the day and go back, so that can be quite busy. So keep that in mind.
yeah, of course, yeah. So I mean, every time you do like a remote trip out in the desert, I'm sure, Murphy's Law. Murphy just comes out and he always says hello.
Yep.
So before we even started the Simpson last time, I had brake issues. I would use the brake and they would stick on. But it didn't get bad until I'd done the Great Central. So the Great Central obviously did a number on my brakes. So I had to do a Mercy Dash to Alice Springs, load up on brake pads so that I could cross the Simpson because I couldn't fix it. They just kept seizing up. So what I did was I used engine compression as much as I could, going over all these dunes, tried not to use the brake at all. And when I did have to, we had to change the brakes halfway through, and then that got me to Sydney eventually on the other
Yeah,
side.
wow.
It's, well, we're sort of starting to wrap it up here, boys, really, with the Simo stuff, but I'm enjoying the chat with, where would you rank it in terms of the, obviously canning stock route, mate, you've done recently, and the Simo, like, where does the Simpson Desert sit?
Yeah.
Like,
So-
'cause I know you love desert travel, Ronny.
Yeah.
Look, Simo's close to my heart. It was the first really kind of more remote trip that we had ever done where we were in the 40 series, so we were always a bit apprehensive, like, can we do a trip like
Yeah.
this? And we went with a good mate who was really, really handy, so we had the confidence that he could fix things for us. But so it's kind of dear to my heart. It's kind of the first. It's a really good trip to dip your toes into that remote desert kind of travel because you're going to be doing sand dunes and you're going to be remote and you're going to have to be prepared. But it's still not too long. 4 days you can finish it up.
Yep.
And, if you start at Dalhousie, you get a beautiful, hot swim in the springs before you go, and then you finish up at Birdsville, you do Big Red, And it really feels like an accomplishment. You roll out and you get the biggest dune done, you crawl up, and then you go to the pub and have some beers. Like, it's really good fun. And it's great practice for the canning.
Yeah,
because the canning's pretty much the Simpson times 4 or 5.
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
With different environments, but I mean, there's a lot of dunes on the canning.
Yep.
Yeah. How many dune crossings are there on the canning, as in comparison to the Simpson? Like, do you get
1,500,
the
I
big
believe.
Dunes? It's 1,500.
Yeah, there's some bigger dunes. So we did the leeward side of the dunes because we did the canning east to west or north to south. They sort of call it more commonly. So we were on the steep side of the dunes, and look, out of 1,500, we probably got caught up on 2 or 3, and I just had to go down, put in low range, and put the diff locks in. It got up.
Yeah, sure.
But the biggest problem was getting momentum up because of how chopped the track were. If there's the moguls or wombat holes, you call them, you just couldn't get any momentum, so you just really have to take it slow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the Simpsons are great little foray into a bit of desert travel, and it's just stunning out there. When the sun starts setting,
oh mate,
the colours change. The sand is a magenta pink. The colours in the sky. It is it's my favourite kind of travel. The coast is pretty cool around Australia, but you can't beat the desert.
You can't beat the desert.
Can't beat it
At sunset or sunrise. Now, speaking of contrast and colour, okay, so Duggo, Big Red. You heard Big Red?
I have heard of Big Red.
Okay, Matt, tell them what colour it really is.
Well, I'd say it's more of an orange kind of brown.
It's like construction sand.
Oh, really?
Colour. So here's the interesting thing. When we did the Madigan last time, we were at this really reddish section, which is on the far west, right? I had, those hydrolite capsules.
Yep.
I filled one of those up with the red sand, right? And I put that in my bag. And then we got to the end and we got out after all the debacle with Torben's Land Cruiser. We got to Birdsville. We were stuck in Birdsville because the roads were flooded. And this guy come up, recognised us. And he's like, oh, yeah. And he's like, yeah, Spooner can't get in there because it was closed after we came out. And he's like, oh, all my missus wanted was some red sand from the Simpson, from Big Red. And I said to him, mate, wait right there. I went to my car. I gave him the sand capsule. And I said, actually, this is proper red sand. This is not Big Red, but this is red sand. I gave it to him, mate. This guy was so stoked.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
To make his missus happy.
What colour is Big Red then? What does it get? If it's that colour, why does it get Big Red?
I suppose it is reddy.
Does it light up?
Reddish.
Does it light up at sunset or something?
Yeah, depending on the time of day. Like, I find it in the morning. In the morning, if you're heading with the sun, everything's kind of yellow. But in the afternoon, it goes more red. Would you agree?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or maybe,
Just a quick point on Big Red. The old 40 series did get up Big Red on the hardest line. Just needed 8 PSI all round and first gear low. Took a minute 15 to get up, like the video. It's hilarious. Just
a minute 15.
It's so slow.
First crack?
First crack.
Wow.
And I had problems with my gearbox in first. It was making a bit of noise, so I only wanted one go at it. But I tried it in the 78 and it didn't do it in first low.
Jeez.
So the old 40.
Yeah. Whoa, what tire pressure?
Probably a bit higher. I could have gone lower. I was probably around 16. So if I went down, it would have been all right. But as I said, that old 40 series, you have to drive it properly. But it's a hilarious video. I'll show you guys later.
Yeah,
it takes so long.
Let's go.
He's definitely got a soft spot for that 40, doesn't he?
Yeah, it sounds like the winner over the Simpson, though. What happened to the 40, mate?
Mate, sitting in the shed. I've got big plans for it.
Yeah.
We'd love to restore it.
Cool.
I'm chasing down a 12 HT for it. It's a turbo diesel 6-cylinder engine of a similar era.
Yep.
The plan is 12 HT, 5-speed, power steering, aircon, disc brakes, but keeping the 40 chassis, leaf sprung all round. It's awesome. Like, it flexes so good, but keeping it sort of classic, but also I want to make it a bit better to drive. So just trying to source a 12 HT is a bit hard, but I think I found one. So
it's a very complimentary motor to put in it. I'll say it's quite fitting.
Yes. Yeah, well, it's Toyota. Still a 6-cylinder.
Low RPM and
exactly.
It's a good engine.
Yeah, it's just they really improved them from the 2Hs. 2H is good, but if I'm going to mess around putting power steering and aircon on it, you can spend easily $5,000 putting all that gear in. Just get a turbo diesel engine, put a high flow turbo on it, 3-inch, and they sound awesome. Sound like a tractor, and they're cool. So that's the plan with it.
Yeah, wicked, awesome. Well, that's boys, all we've really got. Do you mind hanging around for 5 more minutes, Matt?
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, we're going to jump to around the fire pit, Ronny.
Oh yeah, it's
Now,
about time to get warm, isn't it?
This is our little segment that we do.
We're getting
at
toasty.
the end of the show. We
laptop gets shut.
A fake fire sound.
Yeah, nice.
We've got the boys next door with they've got the setup, but obviously it's so wet that we can't bloody do it. So
I feel it on my toes now.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you for getting on board. Now we were going to do like some live questions, but we're going to struggle here, Ronny. So I've actually got no questions on my laptop.
Jono, do you want to round some people up with some live questions?
Tell them there's an ice.
They get to win
an ice box.
The ice box.
Jono's got the worst job at the show right now.
Tell us about the ice box.
Well, it's a Dometic 70-litre ice box. We're giving that away.
Oh.
Now, unfortunately, we can't fill it up with shelters because, I don't know what happened to them on your way over, mate. No.
Yeah,
I was looking at these shelters. I've got to get on them.
Yeah, mate, these are the BackChat ones that they did for us.
Yep.
Chat ale.
They're actually on. If you're ever back over WA, they're at my local on tap. So
yeah, beauty.
It's pretty. Pretty good stuff.
I love a good craft beer. That looks like pretty easy drinking.
Busselton, mate. Busselton.
Beauty.
Yeah,
that's where they're from.
It's a great setup. Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
You want an ice box?
I don't know if these guys know anything about forward driving, but anyway, we'll see how they go.
Try these guys.
If you actually ask a question, you can take that ice box home. We genuinely need one question.
Is it full of beer?
Hey, I think I got a question coming from the back here. Yeah. Has he got one, Jono?
You could literally ask us how our day's going, and it's yours.
Have we run out of fuel?
Yes. I actually ran out in the Simpson.
Yeah.
We got one just then too.
We got another one. Yeah, we got two. Oh, but it's the best question that wins. Yeah. I've run out of fuel very close a couple of times. I've actually got a really good story about one of the times, which wasn't actually me, but I ran out of fuel when I was telling a caravan park in Cooper Pedy because we wanted a shower after 8 days in the desert, and my water tank busted, so I was hanging for a shower. So I rang up this caravan park because we wanted to book and it was getting late. And the first phone call was, I had tyre issues, so we're going to be a little bit late. Second phone call, I ran out of fuel, just putting a jerry in, so we're going to be a little bit late. And then I actually ran out of fuel, had to put the jerry in, and the guy hung up on me. And then I realised why he hung up on me, because we crossed the border into South Australia. I was trying to ring him at like midnight, so he wasn't too happy. So yeah, got the fuel in. By the time we got to camp, which was at Cooper Pedy, it was 2:30 a.m. We were knackered. We thought we were the only idiots there. 2 other backpackers, cars, kid you not, rolled in afterwards, half an hour later. And we're like, what's going on? And of course, everyone out in the middle of nowhere, if they're a bit concerned, they try and camp right next to you. So we're like, we had this spot to ourselves. It was on wiki camps. That's the problem.
Yeah, right.
So backpackers have wiki camps.
Did you leave your review?
No, I didn't. No,
Spewing.
It wasn't my wiki camps.
What was yours, Matt?
I was in the Simpson. We add up the Ks that we're going to do, and both me and my mate came to the exact same incorrect conclusion about Ks. So we thought we were right. If we had added it up and we were different, we might have actually double checked, but we didn't. Anyway, so I got about 50 Ks out of Birdsville, and my mate had enough fuel, so he just had to run into town, quickly grab some diesel and come back and fill the 40 up.
You actually ran out, like you ran dry, or you just...
I was below empty, but I couldn't be bothered cracking injectors or priming it or anything, so I'll just stop it here from only 50 Ks away. So that was a better option.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. It's
all right, let's get that second question in.
Thanks, mate. You got us going.
Yeah. What's your question, mate? Yeah.
Yep. Now, in all your travels, what's the best brewery in Australia? And if you don't say Tumut River, you're wrong.
Mate, Shelter.
It's got to be Shelter, doesn't it?
It's got to be Shelter, mate. It's in Busselton, mate.
This guy, he knows a bit.
It?
This guy's asked a question. My brother started that brewery in Tumut. Yes. Oh, are you? I live in Tumut.
We love all breweries, mate.
Take it offline, lads. You guys got a question up the back at all? You got a question at all?
You can win that ice box.
You can win this.
Okay, it'll be a 1 in 3 chance. So just give us a question.
he doesn't get it.
What's better, Western Australia or Tasmania?
Never been to Tassie, so I'd say WA. What about you, Duggo?
I've got to say WA only because I'm living there, but yeah, for what I've seen of Tassie, it's bloody beautiful. So yeah, are you guys from there? Nah.
Well,
Yeah. I haven't nothing extreme there, but it looks that side of it looks unreal. So yeah, but
Yeah.
I got to claim
gonna
WA.
say, one good thing about Tassie is you can drive for 2 hours and be in like a completely different spot. You drive
Yeah,
for 2
right.
hours in WA and
Still the
exact
same
same
stuff.
bushes on the side of the road,
Still the same
straight
postcode.
thing, so,
But you can also drive for 2 hours in Sydney and you're still in Sydney.
yeah, mate. You don't have to tell me I used to live in Sydney. So
Yeah, that was us this morning for sure.
Yeah, so actually, what do you reckon? So Tassie or WA?
honestly, they're completely different. It's you're comparing apples and oranges.
You got 2 weeks to do a trip. Where do you go?
Well, for me, it's only 4 hours down to the ferry. Well, 5 hours down to Melbourne, get the ferry overnight, and I can be in Tassie the next morning. So it's a bit easy to get to, but it's just different. You know, if you want to go really remote, desert tracks and, you know, beautiful coastline, do WA, and also variety. You know, you've got warm weather up north and you've got the cool weather down south, whereas Tassie, it's cold all year round.
Yep.
But it's cool. It's different. It's a different kind of travel. It doesn't really feel like Australia. It feels like New Zealand or even Europe sometimes, so it's cool.
Yep.
I'm getting a feeling he's leaning towards Tassie. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's all right. You can have it.
They're
Though.
different, mate.
Yeah.
I like them both.
Good answer. All right, you
Should we?
can choose. It's yours to give away.
Me? Look, I love the fuel question.
Fuel.
I like the
He
fuel
got us.
question.
He got us going too.
Yeah,
So.
it
Of
hit
course,
home.
Dan, yeah.
Who did you guys used to listen to back in the day when you first started?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Ooh.
I remember, well, it's funny. I think in 2017 I came to this show. Holly and I came in Holly's Ford Fiesta. Like, we were looking around at all the stuff. And, yeah, it's funny being here a few years later. But I used to watch Ronny, like, literally how to, like, do your basics. I used to watch Ronny and, like, I knew absolutely nothing.
Yep.
But yeah, I remember a bit of Andrew St. Pierre White as well. He was quite funny.
Yeah,
I liked his filming. I'm into videography, so I liked a bit of his filming. But yeah, Ronny, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
mate, I'm trying to blush
Learn the
here.
basics,
Is
mate.
there anyone before, Ronny? Who did you start with?
I would say Malcolm Douglas. Yeah, Malcolm Douglas. Yeah, I'd say Malcolm Douglas.
How'd you access his stuff? Was it like
Just on
when you were starting
DVDs.
DVDs and that?
Yeah.
Oh, Les Hiddens, the Bush Tucker Man.
Yeah, right.
I grew up watching VHSs of Bush Tucker Man. He was awesome, eh? Les Hiddens, like, you know, the stuff that he did back in the day.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was cool.
Yeah.
Look, I did also like some of Andrew's old stuff, Andrew St. Pierre's old
Yep.
stuff, when he used to do like all the Africa travel and all that. It was actually, it was pretty interesting.
Yep. Yeah, I'm more new to it, so I was probably a little bit of yourself, Ronny. But there's a bloke called Pete from WA Camping Adventures, who he's still going. He's going pretty well, but he was one that got me into it. I just loved his videos, loved how he presented. So doing this sort of stuff was he was sort of one of the first that I started watching. So
We'll catch up with him in WA.
Yeah, we will.
Cool.
Well, thanks, Matt, for joining us.
Yeah,
No,
thanks,
boys.
mate.
Appreciate it.
your time and. Good luck with all your travels coming up. We'll wrap that up there, Ronny. I think that'll be.
I think
That'd
so.
be
So hang on. The icebox.
Oh, you got to give
the
the icebox ways.
Yeah.
Lucky Jaden's still here.
Mate,
All yours, mate.
it's all yours, mate. It's all yours.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't fill that with shelters.
Yeah, not that cracking it. Well done, mate. Go there. Cheers. Yeah,
Congrats,
no
mate.
worries.
Yeah,
We'll just
yeah,
wrap
for
this
sure.
up. So, Four Wheel Drive Podcast, driven by Shelter. Southern Riverband will see us out. Four Wheel Drive Podcast on Instagram. All our socials over at BackChat, YouTube as well. Catch you later.